All right, jumping right into calculating our footings. First things first, we are going to need to identify our footings with a label, okay? Because this week we are talking about coloring and labeling. So in order to make sure that everybody is using the same system and the same labeling, we are going to use this as a book, okay? So how do you read a book? Top to bottom, left to right. And I mean a regular American book, not a Japanese anime, because I obviously know that that is backwards. For those of you who didn't know, surprise, I am an anime fan. Anyway, back to our lesson. We are going to label it from top to bottom, left to right. So with that being said, it's going to be F1, F2, F3, F4, this guy right here, F4, F5, and F6, okay? Now, that's top to bottom, left to right. And then you still have top to bottom, left to right, okay? So it's just a little bit different. Top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right, okay? So I will pause this again and I will show you guys once I've labeled. Okay, as you can see, this is my labeling: F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6. Okay, and you guys should be labeled accordingly. All right, so now for the next step of our plan, we are going to be using our green quadrille paper. Remember I said we'll be using this paper from here on out. And we are going to calculate our footing lengths. So for instance, I'm just going to use F2 for right now as the example because it is the one that's closest to the dimension lines, honestly. So if we are looking at our foundation plan from outside of brick to outside of brick, the dimension is 40 feet, 0 inches. Okay, but we want to find the outside of our footing, which is this line here, to the outside of our footing, which is this line here. Now, looking at our foundation plan, or excuse me, our section cuts, we know that there is 6 inches of space on both sides. So you're going to take this 40-inch dimension, okay, and add 6 inches to this side and 6 inches to this side. But because it's in decimal feet, it's going to be 40 feet plus 0.50 plus 0.50. Okay, we're going to break it down very simple. Obviously, you know 6 inches on both sides is 1 foot. However, we aren't that advanced yet to where we can start taking shortcuts. So we need to break everything out step by step. So it's going to be 0.50 on this side, 0.50 on that side. The same will go for your F1, which obviously we're going to go in numerical order. So F1 would be first, followed by F2. In order to calculate for F3 and F4, it will be a little bit more complicated, but first let's tackle F1 and F2. So now, as you can see, my F1 takes 40 feet plus 0.50, which is 6 inches on one side, plus 0.50, which is 6 inches on the other side, equals 41.00 feet. Notice how each one of my calculations has 2 decimal places, a unit of measure, and my final answer is boxed. This is how every single one of your calculations for your practice project and your final project needs to look, as well as having a header of your last name in this box, the division once we get to our final project in this box, what you'll be taking off or the division title, your date, and then it would be your page number. For doing division 3, it'll be 3.1. If it's division 4, 4.1. And then however many pages it takes, it'll be 4.1, 4.2, 3.1, 3.2. Now, moving on to calculating your short sides in this project, which will be our vertical members of our practice project. And like I said, this one is a little bit more difficult because there's a little bit more that you need to take off. Now, there are several different ways that you can do this, okay? And I'm going to teach you both ways. However, the way that I do it just works in tandem with how my brain operates. But the other way that I'm also going to show you might work a little bit better for some of you. So I'm going to show you both. My way, or option A, is going to be, you see, and I'm going to use F4 as my example because, again, the dimensions on this side, and it's just a little bit easier to understand. From outside of brick to outside of brick, you have an overall dimension of 28 feet, okay? Now, what I typically like to do is I like to add the 6 inches of space of leftover footing on both sides, so 0.50 and 0.50. That changes my dimension now from 28 feet to 29 feet because I've added a total of 1 foot of space. If I do 6 inches on this side and 6 inches on that side, that is 1 foot. So this dimension now goes from 28 feet to 29 feet to outside of footing to outside of footing. Now, we've already calculated this corner and this corner of our footing. And we know that we have a 12 by 24 foot footing. Therefore, we need to take away 2 feet on this side and 2 feet on this side, okay? Which would then make our dimension 25 feet. Does that make sense? Again, so I have my original length, which was 28 feet from outside of brick to outside of brick, okay? I added 0.5 feet to both sides. So 0.5 feet to get from this corner here to the outside of my footing, and then 0.5 to get from the outside of my brick to the outside of my footing here as well, which brought my dimension to, once you add the 0.5 and 0.5, that would be a total of 29 feet, okay? Then I subtracted 2 feet from both sides, 2 feet from here, and 2 feet from here to get my ending dimension of 25 feet. Now, the reason why it is 2 feet is because you already know that you have 4 inches of brick plus 8 inches of CMU, which is a total of 12, but your footing is 2 times the width of your foundation wall, which would then make this 2 feet. Also, it is confirmed on our section cut that it is 12 feet by 24 feet size footing. Okay, so it's 24 this way and 12 high, okay? So that was option A of doing things. Option B is just as effective, so I'm going to show you that way as well. To me, option B just leaves a little bit more room for error because if you have more numbers that you could possibly forget. But I will show you that way anyway, because some of you, it will make more sense to you instead of adding to a problem just to subtract all the way through. Okay, so I'm going to show you that one next. Starting with, again, our 28 foot length, instead of adding 0.5, okay, since we want to get to this portion here of our footing, we are going to subtract the 4 inches of brick, okay, followed by the 8 inches of CMU, okay, followed by the 5 inches of leftover footing. 6 inches of leftover footing. Okay, so you minus 4, 8, and 6 from that side, as well as 4, 8, and 6 from this side, okay? So I will show you what that looks like on paper, and we will reconvene. So now you have your second option of calculating or taking off for your short sides in this project, because remember, our horizontals are our full length and our verticals are our short length. So our short lengths have a little bit more subtraction and calculations that need to take place. But option B goes, you have your 28 feet here, 28 feet, and I subtracted out 4 inches of brick, which is my skinny line, 4 inches of brick, minus 8 inches of CMU, which is my medium line, 8 inches of CMU, minus my 6 inches of leftover footing space, which is my 6 inches leftover footing space. And then that was just on one side. I know that I have to come down here and do the exact same thing. So it was a repeat of minus 4 inches, minus 8 inches, minus 6 inches, and it still brings me to 25 feet, or 25 LF, which is linear feet, if you want to write it down that way. Either way is fine. Option A consists of adding and subtracting. Option B consists of nothing but subtraction and subtracting, which is, like I said, either way is perfectly fine with how you want to calculate your project. This goes for your final project as well as your practice project. I will not be leaving you guys alone. We will be going over this project step by step with step-by-step videos, as I am doing now. Footing 5 and 6, again, is a little bit different as far as calculations go. So we will tackle that a little later. All right, guys, so it is a little bit later, and now we are going to finish up our footing calculations for today's assignment, and that is by using our 24-foot length for our F5 and our 8-foot length for our F6. So obviously, you know, we are going in numerical order. So F5 is up first. How we are going to be calculating that is, as you can see, this dimension 24 feet is from outside of brick, okay, to inside of CMU. So because of this, we need to get to the outside of our 12-inch CMU, as well as this extra 6 inches in order to get to the outside portion of our F5. Okay, so you're adding 12 inches plus 6 inches to this side, but then you're also subtracting, or my case, option A, you're going to add 5 inches. Why do I keep saying 5 inches? 6 inches, and then subtracting out 2 feet. That way you get to the inside of this dimension of your footing, and then to the outside of this dimension of your footing. Now, ending out this video, I have my calculations for option A for calculating F5 and F6, and then my calculations for option B for calculating F5 and F6. For option A, we have 24 feet, okay, plus 1 foot of CMU, plus 0.5 feet, 0.5 feet to get to the outside edge of this footing right here, to get to the outside edge of our F5, okay? But then I also added 0.5 to this side, and then I subtracted out the full 2 feet on this end, okay? And funny enough, that actually brings me back to my original dimension of 24 feet. which makes sense because our horizontals are running the full length on this project, okay? For my option A for F6, I have 8 feet, which is over here, okay? Let me switch hands. 8 feet, which is over here. I then subtracted 0.5 feet from this side, okay? But then I added 0.5 feet to this side, and then I subtracted out the 2 from here. And it gave me the 6 feet over here. Sorry about that pause. I was low-key joking. For my option B calculation, okay, I have that same 24 feet. I added 1 foot plus another 0.5 feet. Then I subtracted out 4 inches of brick, 8 inches of CMU, 5 inches of space. Okay, and that gave me my 24 feet here. For my F6 calculation option B, I had 8 feet here. Okay, I added 1 foot to the top plus another 0.5 feet to get to the outside edge of that footing. Then I added another 0.5 feet to the outside to get to the outside edge of this footing. And then I subtracted 2 feet from this full length and 2 feet from this full length. And that gave me, which I should have done on this side, 2 feet from this side and 2 feet from this side. And that gave me the additional or the same 6 feet that I got for my option A calculation. Either way is 100% fine. It just depends on what you feel most comfortable with. Okay, and obviously I made a janky mistake here. This was supposed to be pink. I think I accidentally made it green, and then I tried to fix it and it came out looking a little wonky. But my calculations for both of these are correct. Now, we have all of our footing calculations, and we are ready and prepared to move on to the next phase of our project, which will be in another video, and that will consist of us calculating our brick lengths. So, see you soon.